I'm going to begin, David, by asking, I mean, we've seen films of late kind of centering around sort of women in their sort of late 20s, almost sort of navigating their way into adulthood and sort of facing up to kind of realities of life, perhaps reflecting on kind of opportunities missed. I mean, there's Frances Ha, Obvious Child, Girl Most Likely, Say When. What do you think it is about this kind of particular theme at present that just seems to be breeding such sort of great cinema?
Say When. What's the other one?
Girl Most Likely, Obvious Child, and Frances Ha. They're very different movies.
Frances Ha, yeah. Well, as far as we're concerned, we're the only movie.
Yeah.
Joking, didn't go over. Okay, so I can only tell you why we did this. I did this because I had not seen. I don't know those films, and perhaps I should. I can tell you these movies. I don't know if those are coming of age stories. How would you describe those movies? Does any of them become a boss like in our movie?
No.
Does any of them get to be 45 years old in our movie with her grown children kissing her goodnight and saying goodnight and saying to her friend, yeah, here we are, adversaries in commerce and still friends, and she ain't got a man, but she's got men working with her and for her, and she's got her ex-husband working for her as a friend, a much better friend than he ever was a husband. Those were reasons to make this film. And it's inspiring to me that out of an ordinary person, I would find extraordinary magic starting in her childhood. It was a meditation on what the emotion is, joy, in each age, including wedding, and then including divorce, and including here I am stuck, trapped in a maze of my family's and my own life, defined by these people. And she almost has a quiet Michael Corleone quality to her, which is different for Jennifer and I. She's had a more wild energy in the last two films, previous. And to watch that power from the quiet place inside of her, which I've seen Jennifer have to find, which she was born with, but you get a tidal wave of attention break over you and you can lose it. And many a time it washes that person out to sea, and they're left without their soul. But I've watched her hang on to her soul, and the cutting of her hair is something I watched her do in real life, which she will tell you is because her hair was damaged, and I will tell you because it was a declaration of something to me when she did that. She'd had long hair, and then all of a sudden she chopped it, and I don't know if I'm answering. It seems like you have a lot of questions. You go back to your iPad. Go, man. Go, man.
Well, no, to follow on from that, I mean, you're right. I mean, Jennifer Lawrence's her performance is remarkably subtle, and I know this is not as easy as it sounds for sort of megastars, but she comes across as being so normal in this movie. Like when she's on QVC, this is someone with so much natural charisma and presence who appears very uncomfortable in that scene. I mean, it's a fantastic performance, and I was just wondering, it must just be a complete, joy to work with her and collaborate with her again.
It is a joy, and it is a privilege to know her and to call her a true friend, and to same with Robert and Bradley, and to do things that they've never done before. And it happens organically, and that will happen when it's meant to happen again. It may not happen. Who knows? I don't. But it will happen again because we have an affection for each other and a kinship. She's a very unpretentious person who doesn't take herself too seriously, yet has had to learn to give herself the dignity of protecting herself the hard way. You learn that the hard way. And but she's very pure and true to herself. And she does have a very quiet place inside of her, which we saw as soon as she ran on the set of Silver Linings Playbook. And she knows what it's like to, I think that in success there is aloneness and there is sadness. And that was one of the reasons we also wanted to make the movie, because it's not merely about breaking through. It's about once you break through, what is the maturity of joy and success? It is as problematic as failure. It was a meditation that we were both interested in.
When we see Joy as a young girl kind of dreaming of being an inventor, and at one point it seems like it's passing her, but I was wondering what you would dream of being when you were a kid, and if it was to be involved in cinema, was there ever a time in your life that it seemed like it might be unlikely?
Well, it was not. I mean, I loved movies and I lived in movies in my mind, but I always wanted to be a writer. So I imagined myself like Charles Dickens or somebody writing. And I did have a very long period of time where I felt that would not be possible. And it did not become possible with the writing of novels or fiction, which daunted me, and I tried to do in my 20s. And I found that I couldn't handle the loneliness of working all my jobs and trying to write fiction. I did not think I would be a filmmaker. It came rather late to me. And I love that it has a social aspect to it. I think you can, like a cicada, there are metaphors I've been waiting my 20, 30 years, I'm old enough to say, to use in cinema. And the cicada metaphor is one. I grew up with cicadas. They're loud, they're mysterious, you couldn't see them. And I learned they went underground for 17 years, and that only made them more mysterious and weird to me, because there's no real I couldn't get a good explanation of that. But it seemed a wonderful metaphor for what could happen to anybody, anybody anywhere. You can be living or surviving, but not really inspired or embracing life as you wish to, or as you felt when you had the musicality or joy as a kid. And to even hear the heartbeat of that, many people never get to hear it again. Once they get caught up in jobs and domestic life, that they never get to hear that music again. They may see it in their kids. They may even find it foreign or resent it in their kids, or find it a demand that they don't remember how to do when they look at their kids. So to me, to recall that and to be using it in a way that becomes an adult power was part of the magic. We always have to have magic and enchantment in our movies. That's part of what I love about the cinema. In this harsh reality of ordinariness, that's the combination that we've been doing. And, I wanted to see her speak Spanish, which I'd never seen her do. Every movie I want to try to see her do things I've never seen her do. Not only the age range, but the speaking of Spanish and the singing, which she was, of course, uncomfortable with. I wasn't aware that she had sung in a Hunger Games movie, so I thought I was breaking ice there. And as far as I am concerned, we still did. And for Robert, if it wasn't for the Isabella Rossellini character, there's all these different kinds of women in the movie. Isabella Rossellini is fierce and scary as she was in Blue Velvet, a film that everybody should see if they haven't. And she's beautiful and exotic and continental, as De Niro calls her. And in truth, if the father was not a romantic who found a girlfriend on a dating service, you and I would not be sitting here right now. Joy would never have had a backer who then became a problem that she had to fight through to become something. And that something can be taken away from you at any moment, and it can be lost at any moment. So the fact that she can calmly hold it and keep fighting for it is, to me, as inspiring as Michael Corleone, in a way.
One more. You were just talking about Jennifer Lawrence sort of do things. You want her to do things she hasn't done before, and I was reading that she said in the next film that she might be working with you, she might be playing Robert De Niro's mother. Is that true? And if so, how is that going to work? Have I fallen for like an article on The Onion or something? It's in the news today.
She's not supposed to talk about that.
I think she has.
No. But there is some truth to that, and she has many movies she's going to do before that, and I don't know what I'll do before that. So we'll see if that script I've written survives the next few years. But I write novelistically big scripts, and I was speaking to Quentin about this the other day, which is very reassuring for me to hear that he likewise has written big, overflowing, ambitious narratives and not known what to do with them because they're too big to fit into a movie. And that Inglourious Bastards was that for him. And when he made Grindhouse, he'd already written Inglourious, but didn't know how to make it fit into a movie. And there was a whole hour into it. And it was only after we were talking about our reinvention stories. And he said, David, I like that your story is that you kind of picked yourself up and made a whole new chapter of yourself when you were humbled. And I said, yes, but I feel the same is true of you. Because I felt that after Grindhouse, which was sort of this genre ode he did that didn't entirely take, I felt that he sort of doubled down in a way that made him a deeper, almost established his legacy more. And because he took on history, he took on the Nazis and the Jews, and I think Brad Pitt's greatest performance. And then he did it with slavery, and with Christoph Waltz and both. So that came out of almost being more obscure with Grindhouse. So it was very reassuring for me to hear that he had gone back after Grindhouse to his old script. And this is my thing about Jennifer being the mother. You know, I don't know what will happen. I've written it. And he said, I got to figure out how to take an hour out of this. And there's a whole hour of Inglourious Basterds that was taken out that I thought was just fascinating, that it could almost be a movie unto itself. So as you get older as a filmmaker, you reach for the unattainable in a way. You know, in this film, we reached for so many big ideas, you know, we wanted to put in there, from her dreams and nightmares that haunt her, which I'd never done. They're emotional, purely emotional, sort of suffocating or weird, that make you wake up and disoriented and make a change or don't make a change. But they're like a telegram from beyond. And that's great cinema to be able to do. They were even longer when I wrote them, you know, and of course the soap opera was even more. But I said, I'm going into these tunnels. I'm going to go into this soap opera tunnel, and I'm going to do it over 4 decades. And I relished working with those soap opera actors. They're athletes who do 100 pages a day in their world. And I relished making the dreams, which I could have just kept doing to music. They're just like these big paintings. So it is, you know, you have these things that you have to take many of them out, you know, but that's okay. You want to take bigger reaches as you make different films. So I think, what the heck was the question that he asked me? Novelistic, what did he say? Oh, Jennifer, the thing, the future. Yeah, that could happen, but we'll see what happens in the next few years. If I figure out how to do that as Quentin did with Inglourious.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for your time.
It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Hey, you guys!
Hey, you guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey, you guys!